I got the press release for the Nexabond 2500 wood adhesives, I was impressed that it didn't have all the pie in the sky promises that all the press releases I throw away do. These guys seem to want to talk about glue, and I thought that's something we could look at. One of the first things that caught my eye was that the Nexabond glues don't seem to care about humidity. And since most of us can't do anything about the humidity in our shops, this was a good thing. And before we go any farther, we have to remember that this is a CA glue and we have to take all of the precautions that demands. And this is combustible, so you have to be careful with open flames. Of course, if you have an open flame in a woodworking shop, you may be having more problems than we think. I know there's a whole bunch of real specific test parameters the pros use for testing glues. But you and I don't work in a lab, so we're just going to follow the directions and see how this works. I cut a bunch of sticks, and we're going to apply some glue to about an inch square area on each of the sticks, clamp them up, and let them dry. They say you only have to clamp this stuff for a few minutes, so I'm going to clamp all of our samples for 5 minutes and then remove the clamps. And they say that we should get maximum strength in about 8 hours, so that's how long we're going to let them sit after I take them out of the clamps. The other strips are just plain pine, and I had a little stick of poplar laying around, so I cut some sticks up with that, and we'll try that as well. Like everything else, it's clamped for 5 minutes and then dried for 8 hours. And right here's the scientific part of my test. I actually timed how long they were in the clamps. After taking the clamps off of everything, we just let it sit around on a bench for 8 hours. 8 hours later, I put the test pieces in a vise so I could grab the top piece and snap it off from the bottom. The important thing we want to see here is how they break. This is the instant or fastest drying version of the Nexabond, and you can see it's got a good bit of wood pull out. When it tears the wood out of the other piece, that shows us that the wood's breaking, not the glue. And you can see I didn't do a real good job putting the glue on, but where I did get it on, it pulled the wood apart. This next sample was glued with the short handling time version of the glue. That's like their medium set time. Once again, my coverage wasn't all that great, but where I did have the glue, it tore the wood out, and it tore a good-sized chunk out. I'm starting to like this stuff. This piece was glued with the long setup time, which should have the most penetration and give us the strongest bond. And that's just what we got. You can see it tore just about all the wood off of one side. There is some wood on the other side of the piece, so there's virtually no glue failure here at all. I expected to find some uncured glue at the center of this joint after only 8 hours, but it dried all the way across. That and the grip it got on this wood is impressive. I used instant glue on this poplar because it accepts glue so well, and look at tore wood all the way across. I even put a couple of drops of the thin version on this end grain to end grain, and yep, it's not magic. It didn't hold just like nothing else will on end grain. And so the Nexabond line of CA adhesives gets the official newwoodworker.com blessings. It works well, it does what they say it'll do, and they didn't start out by trying to feed me a big line of garbage. And that last thing is different these days.